certification is once you've submitted a completed application, it's called an organic system plan. It'll be reviewed by a certification service specialist who confirm that your land is eligible for certification, and then we understand how your operation works on paper. The inspector will confirm that what you say on paper is what you're doing in practice, and inspector's report will be reviewed and certification granted. That takes about 12 weeks from the time we receive your completed application. At CCOF, every certified member has an anniversary date of December 31st. The annual renewal notices go out in November for the next year, and annual inspections can happen at any time during the year. There are lots of forms in the organic system plan, which we're going to call an OSP most of the time. With CCOF, the first form is a CCOF certification application where you provide company information, sign a contract for certification services, and describe your operation. This description gives the certification staff a starting point to understand your operation and what other forms should be in there. I often refer to this as like a picture on a puzzle box because all the other forms are like the puzzle pieces. The parcel application is where you describe your land and how it's been managed for the past 3 years. And the rest of the application is about what you're doing now going forward. So I just flipped that too quickly. Sorry about that. Let's get there right on, see if I missed anything. Okay, so let's go there. Just a quick note, you'll see some numbers on this page. In this case, there's numbers and a form name. The 205.202 is the section of the National Organic Program Standards that pertain to this part of the certification, in this case, the land requirements. And the name of, there'll also be a name or a number on, in this case, the form name is parcel application. Some of them have numbers. We'll see that coming up next, but in this case, that's the name of the form. And this one asks, when you're looking at this, these are the forms, when you look at the name or the number, that's the form that's going to be asking for specific information that pertains to that, that topic and that requirement. So let's talk about some of the specific requirements for certification. First, land has to have been free of prohibited materials for at least 3 years before it can be certified. As part of this parcel application, you'll complete a land history affidavit and explain how the land has been managed and what applications have been applied to it so that we can confirm that it's eligible for certification. This is a point at which I might mention that if you are ever acquiring land, say buying or leasing land that you want to get certified, it's really important to get that land history information from the person you're getting the land from, because they're the ones that are going to need to provide it if it's covering that particular period. The land under this certification includes land under greenhouses and hoop houses unless there is concrete floor. And if there's a potential for drift or any other unintended application of prohibited materials from activities on neighboring land, there must be a buffer adequate to protect the production area from unintended contact of any prohibited materials. The size and type of that buffer depends on the potential for risk. If you do need to use organic seed unless you cannot get organic seed. And this is sometimes the reality. There's a specific kind of seed that you want. One of the places that I found this a lot on the West Coast is it's almost impossible to find certified organic alfalfa seed that is suitable for growing in this climate. You can get it if it's suitable for growing in the middle of the country, but it's not going to work very well. So in that case, you would need to get seed that was not genetically modified, and it couldn't be treated with anything that was prohibited for organic production. So no fungicides or anything like that. And annual transplants, if you're buying transplants, they must be certified organic. Soil fertility is a foundation of organic production. Raw manure can be used, but it must be applied and incorporated into the soil at least 120 days before harvest for crops that have direct contact with the soil, or 90 days for crops that don't come in direct contact with the soil. Compost must reach a temperature between 131 and 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Time required depends on the composting method used, such as windrows, in-vessel, or aerated piles. Pest management. The focus of pest control is prevention using integrated pest management practices. So even though there are pest control materials approved for organic production, these preventative practices must be tried and prove to be insufficient before the materials can be used. Your certifier will need to approve their use. So some of the things that you'll be asked to do, and if you're doing biodynamic, all this is just going to fit right in with what you're already doing. With cultural practices, we're talking about the timing of the planting, the companion planting, crop rotation, soil health, that sort of thing. Biologic controls, beneficial animals and insects, beneficial microorganisms, and repellents and attractants for crops. Mechanical controls are traps and baits and lures and hand removal and bug vac and all those things. If these things don't work, then an application of allowed materials can happen. But then it needs to be approved by your certifier before you can use it. So materials and inputs used in organic production must be specifically allowed or they're prohibited. You'll hear about the national list. This is a section of the NOP standards that describe how materials are evaluated and specifies certain synthetic substances that are allowed and non-synthetic materials that are prohibited. So it's the 205, 606, or 205, 600 section evaluates the criteria. 601 talks about the synthetics that are allowed, and 602 talks about the synthetics that are not allowed. We sent some links to Nadine. I don't know if they'll get through to you, but maybe Noah can follow up. If you want to give us your email addresses, we can follow up and send those links to you. And it includes a copy of the National Organic Standards, so you can see what all these numbers mean. You can also download it from our website. If you put NOP manual in the search bar, it'll take you to a PDF that you can download. All input materials must be approved by your certifier before you use them. That is a mantra. It's very important, because if you use the wrong material on your land will be out of certification for 3 years. So we work really hard to make sure we can approve your materials quickly, get them to you efficiently, and make sure that you can use what you need when you need it. So when you complete your application for certification, you'll list all of the materials you're using now and the ones you want to be using going forward. And these will be approved for your use during the initial review process. And then once you're certified, you'll need to have new materials approved and added to your grower materials list. And with CCOF, that's pretty easy, because all of the OMRI listed, OMRI is the Organic Materials Review Institute, or the WSDA, who also does reviewing of materials, are listed in My CCOF materials search. And My CCOF is a CCOF certified members' online access to their certification. And they can go into the material search section and search for materials that they want to use and ask to have them added to their approved material list. And or you can let us know that you want to use something just by sending us an email. We have a main email box that goes to our certification operations team, and they will direct it to the proper person. If it's not OMRI or WSDA listed and you still want to use it, then your certifier can review it and approve it for your use, but they'll need, I keep doing that, sorry about that. We will need to have a complete list of all the ingredients in that product. So sometimes it gets a little tricky. We sometimes have to work directly with manufacturers because they don't want to share that information too broadly. But again, in red, and I always do this in red, always obtain certifier approval prior to use. And then 6.0 is production practices. And these are critical control points that help understand all the areas and activities that pose a risk to the organic integrity of the crops you grow. And that way the risk can be controlled and monitored. So we're looking for things like the possibility of drift from a neighboring land, If crops are grown in a buffer, if you need to have a buffer with a high-risk contamination, they can't be sold as organic, and you'll need to keep track of them separately, your harvest from that crop. Other safeguards such as neighbor notification and signage are good. Putting up no spray signs is pretty important, especially along roadways. If your local government sprays the roadways, you might be able to negotiate with them. If they're spraying Roundup along the edge of the road, you might be able to negotiate with them that you will mow that strip so that they don't spray. That works pretty well in a lot of jurisdictions. Treated lumber is kind of a tricky point. It's not allowed once you get certified, but any existing wood that is in place at the time, so fence posts or vine posts or anything like that can stay. But we carefully mark those on your parcel map to make sure that the inspector from year to year knows what was there and doesn't keep pinging you and saying, what's this treated wood? Because it's on your map as being treated wood at the time that you got certified. So critical control points include the activities around your parcel, your irrigation practices, that treated wood, prohibited materials that are stored on the farm. If you're doing both organic and conventional, you might have some inputs that you're using on the conventional side, and you need to have them separated and stored in a way that they won't be mistaken and used inappropriately. And any equipment that's used for both organic and conventional applications needs to be cleaned properly between the uses. And so you need to have operating systems in place for doing that, and you may need a clean out log for that particular function. Record keeping is a backbone of organic certification and the bane of many growers' existence. I don't know any farmers who went into farming because they wanted to do paperwork, but it's used to demonstrate compliance, so it's really important. The records will provide traceability and documentation of the growing process from the purchase of materials, the planting of the crops to harvest and sales. In your OSP, you'll explain how you keep these records, and the inspector will confirm that your record-keeping system will meet the requirements. In future years, these records will be audited during each inspection. Annual inspections are, I'm not sure this, well, the slide reflects what goes on, but it's actually happening a little differently now because we're spending as little time on site as possible, but it is necessary to do site inspections. So the inspections now are being broken up with usually with a pre-inspection meeting to get everybody on track, and then a site visit, and then a follow-up meeting to pull everything together and do an exit interview. But basically what the inspector is going to be doing is observing your production practice and verifying your records. They're going to tour the parcel, and if you have any kind of facilities, that will be inspected too. And if you're doing both organic and conventional, they're going to look very carefully at how you keep all parts of that operation, those two operations, separate. And all your records pertaining to the organic production and practices. And as I said in the beginning, they're going to make sure you have a system that will work for that. And one of the things that the links that we sent to Nadine include sample record keeping forms, or a link to sample record keeping forms on our website. And basic regular, we're going to look at making sure that you understand your own organic system plan and how it reflects on your day-to-day operations. And they're also going to confirm that you have a basic understanding of the regulatory requirements, and that your audit trail, your record keeping, will allow for recall in case of a problem, and an in-out or mass balance showing that you harvested at least as much product as you sold, so that we can confirm to your customers that it isn't something other than what it's supposed to be. And then you have an exit interview with your inspection so that you can kind of wrap up all the loose ends, and the inspector can explain what they saw, what they are likely to be putting into their report. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of surprises once you get that actual report. And then in addition to the regular on-site inspections, the announced ones that you get each year, there's occasionally an unannounced inspection, and this usually happens if we have been alerted to a potential problem. We do periodic residue testing of the plants themselves. We do not usually test the soil. And we are required as a certifier to annually test at least 5% of all of our certified operations. So in growing operations, that is testing the plant residue. In processed products, it might be testing for GMOs in the finished product. And this is a response to complaints by consumers or by industry. And we do a full-on investigation. We have a whole investigation department and work really well with our clients to make sure that they get on track if they're off track, and then go forward in a way that we can all be assured that they are in compliance with the requirements. Other things you should know. You can change and update your organic system plan as you go along. It's a living document. It's not intended to be locked in place. I suggest that when you're doing your application, you only think forward as far as the first harvest year, because things are going to change. And if you start thinking about, well, maybe next year I'll do it this way, you kind of end up getting bogged down because you don't know how to explain what you're doing and what you might be doing at the same time on the forms. But every November when you get your renewal, you'll be prompted to update your organic system plan. Are you growing new crops? Are you going to add parcels of land? Do you want new materials added to your materials list? You can do that at any time, but we will prompt you at renewal time. So you do need to notify your certifier before you implement changes, whether it's labeling or materials you're using or parcels or facilities you're using. If you're sending your product out to be processed by someone else, we need to know who that is. If you're using labels on your products, they should be available at inspections. And keep in mind that sometimes the NOP standards change. The National Organic Standard Board meets a couple of times a year, and occasionally they change things. So we will do all we can to alert you to those changes. In fact, if you want to pay attention now, you can sign up for our e-newsletter on our website. If you go to ccof.org and scroll to the bottom, you can sign up for the newsletter, and we will keep you apprised of any changes that might be coming up from the NOP. And okay, cost. This is always a question. So there are 3 basic fees for certification with CCOF: a one-time application fee, $325, an inspection fee, and an annual certification fee. The cost share program is in effect. It is part of the federal farm bill. It's in its second year of a 5-year run. This year ends at the end of September because it's a federal fiscal year, but you will have at least 3 more years when you can be reimbursed up to $750 per year per certification scope, not to exceed 75% of your fees. So when I say per certification scope, if you're a grower and you have livestock and both are certified, then you can get reimbursed up to $1,500 as long as it doesn't exceed 75% of your fees. Here's some general tips. Be proactive. Know the organic standards and know your organic system plan, and ensure the systems are in place, that you're actually following your OSP. Be careful about materials. Like I said, I always do this in red. Make sure fields are signed. It protects you and the applicators and the contractors and the delivery people. These signs examples are really old, but we do have nice signs that you can use. You don't have to be certified to use our do not spray signs. You do to use the CCOF certified organic sign. And you're going to be keeping all material labels, all receipts for inputs and records, and they need to be available at inspection. So the more organized you are, the cheaper your inspection will be. If you want to get started, you can go to our website at ccof.org and click on that link that says apply for certification. And that will get you the forms. You can ask to have them sent to you. You can download them from the page when you're through the 3 screens. By the time you get to the 4th, you can actually download them, or you can ask to have them sent to you. And one other thing, we do food safety certification for certified organic farms. You have to be certified organic for us to do this, but you don't have to be only organic. You can have a mixed operation of both organic and conventional, and we can do both parts, but you do need to be certified organic. And our goal for doing this, we were asked by our clients to take on food safety because there was perceived conflicts between the organic standards and the food safety standards. So our goal is to help reconcile any of those potential conflicts between the food safety and the organic certification. And that's it. We're open for questions. Noah, are you there?
Hi there. Oh, this is Kim. I was just going to jump in and act as Noah. Go ahead, Noah. It looks like you're present.
Hi, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, do we have any questions?
Did you unmute them?
Charlene, did you have any questions? Sorry, Charlene, you're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I'm so glad to be able to let you know I have had a meeting coming up with a web designer that's going to be happening shortly. Is there, will this webinar be on your website for follow-up?
Eventually. I don't know how long that takes. Do you know, Noah? I think it will be.
I don't know what the process is. I don't know if this webinar specifically will be on the website, but I may have Nadine send it out to